guys, Jennifer from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am back, finally, with a design team project that I can share with everybody. I've been kind of swamped between doing the Craftology project and one for the virtual retreat that's coming up in July. So, and then just a bunch of random stuff at home. But anyway, so I have a new project for you today. This is using the Zoo Adventure from Carta Bella. This paper right here, it is a Stephen Duncan collection from Carta Bella, and he is probably my absolute favorite. I mean, just hands down. He does the most fabulous illustrations and everything with his collections. It's just amazing. Anyway, so this did take 2 full collection kits. As far as paper goes, 1 of the sticker sheets, and then most of an ephemera pack. So, this is a big project. I will just warn you right now. Huge project, but it's a fun one. So, on the front here, we have a shaker, as you can see. And just to illustrate, yeah, this is a big project. This is 8 by 10 with a 3.5 inch spine. It is a gatefold. But this entire shaker pops off. Okay, so we've got our fun little shaker here. This is my frameless shaker, so there is no chipboard involved. It is just acetate and cardstock. So if you haven't seen, I did this when I did my acetate album. I did one like this. Super easy to do, and they look really cool because you can kind of see all the way through there. So this is just held on with magnets to hold the book closed. That pops off. We've got this adorable zoo scene, which this is actually just the bottom half of that same sheet on the front here. So when you open this up, on the front and side cover, we've just got a little 6x6 that just folds out. I did use about half of a 6x6 paper pad. So you'll see in some places where we've got the smaller print like this, that was the 6x6 paper pad. Okay, this is just held shut with a magnet. So if this is looking vaguely familiar, 2 years ago, I did a book with the Lost in Neverland paper from Carta Bella. And I really liked how the album came out, but there were certain pieces and parts of it that I was not wild about how they went together. So that's where I decided to revisit this and kind of change it up. So that was the first time I had done a shaker without a frame. This one is much easier than the one I had done on that one. I changed it actually quite a bit. This element's different. There's several things in here that are different. There are several that are the same that I really liked that I just wanted to use again. So right here on our front page, we have got this nice little flap with the acetate. We've got a pocket back here, but this is actually a pocket as well. So you've got the acetate and the shaker on both sides with that pocket right there. And you can see all the way through that onto both sides. On our next page, we just have a couple of little flaps that just kind of come in on top of a nice tuck spot. I've got a couple of the cut-aparts in here, just a couple of very simple booklets using scraps from the actual construction of the book and scraps of the paper. For inserts there. The ends of these pages are all open, so you could do inserts into the actual page themselves. I chose not to, but these are open if you wanted to do this, or you could glue them closed, which I actually had intended on doing and forgot that I was going to do that, so they didn't get glued. Okay, so here we've got a couple of flaps, tons of room for pictures, big belly band, and then we've got another insert here, just another little booklet here. And again, I've used some of that 6x6 paper on the back. And this does hold closed with a magnet. You could use ribbon there as well. Here, this is another one of the major changes I made. I had a 5x7 waterfall that just caused the page to really buckle and I wasn't wild about it. So instead, I've changed this to a 4x6 and a 3x4. So I did use an entire cut apart on the top, and then I took another cut apart and just did the little strip, so you get the general picture, but you're not matting that entire waterfall as you go down. Our 3x4, we did the same thing, only we're going the opposite direction with it. And then again, I've just got a little band here holding that closed. You could use ribbon if you wanted to. I also changed this page up. I didn't like the way I had done like some stacked pockets that I just really hated. So instead, we've got some kind of pockets going every which way here. So just a tag that I've made with some leftover scraps, a couple of the cut aparts, and then another little booklet, again, with scraps and leftover cardstock. When we get here, we've got 2 pockets, and I'm only going to open one of these. They're identical. Got more cut aparts in here, so it's about 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, I think the finished pocket size is. Plus, there's space on the back here, and that just came unglued. Oh my gosh. Okay. Space on the back there so that you can put another tag or other cut aparts in behind both of these as well. On this side, this is loose for a cut apart or to tuck a picture or something in here. This folds down and opens up like so. So you've got lots of room for pictures there. We've got a couple of pockets here to tuck things into. Again, I did this with a magnet. I really probably should have done ribbon on this because I was having some issues with it, but live and learn, right? Okay, so here is another page that I did change up. We've got 2 inserts back behind here. One landscape and one portrait. And both of those tuck underneath that belly band. And then on top of the belly band, there's another belly band that I've just got a cut apart and a tag in there as well. This page was probably one of my favorite elements. However, I had tried to hold it closed with magnets on the other book, which was an absolute nightmare and never again. So instead, this time I did use ribbon on this one, but this one pulls out. This is my accordion waterfall. And it just pulls both directions, so you've got tons and tons and tons of space for pictures there. And then this ties closed so that once you get that loaded up with pictures and it's a little bulkier, you're still going to have more than enough space. Okay, back here we've just got another insert in a large pocket. Another one of our little booklets. And again, with the 6x6, because I was running out of big pieces of paper, I do have a magnet on that as well. And then this was another one of the elements that I did change. I just didn't like how my back shaker had come out on my other book, so I changed this up a little bit. So you've got your pocket, your acetate shaker pocket on the top here. I just have, again, another little booklet in there. And then behind that, there is another pocket. So you've got double pockets here. And again, I've just got a tuck spot there. I've got a 6x6 booklet in this last one. And there you go. There's your book. So the tutorial will start next. As always, please subscribe and hit the bell if you would like notifications when I do upload new tutorials and new projects. And let's get to it. We're going to talk about the paper for just a second. So, in my design team package, I of course had the collection kit. I have some seam binding, and I had the frames and tags. Okay. It does have some animals that are just kind of on little things. So, okay. Anyway, sorry. I'm just thinking ahead. I also added the ephemera pack, and then I've added the and I had the patterns and solids as well. I've gone ahead and added the ephemera pack. I have added the 6x6 paper pad, which I'm not sure if we'll end up actually, I know of one place I'll use it, but I know maybe a couple other places. But I do have that just in case. And then I did actually end up with another set of the solids because I knew what I was going to do with this book, and I knew it was going to take a lot of paper. So I do have 2 complete sets of just the papers, not the sticker sheet, because we'll use just that one. We don't need a second one of the sticker sheets. So I do have 2 additional of each of these. In fact, this one I think I've got a couple more extra of that one, but that's just personal preference, just because I love the cut aparts and I tend to screw things up. So I'm not sure how much of this I know we'll use at least 2 full sets of the pattern paper. I'm not sure how much of this third one because, again, when I did the original version of this book, and keep in mind I've changed some of the elements, I honestly don't remember how much paper I used, so I'll kind of keep track. I'll try to keep track, especially when it gets into the actual matting, and let you know so that you can plan accordingly. So let me get some stuff together for the pages and whatnot, and I'll be right back. All right, so let's start with our cover. You're going to need 1 piece of chipboard 8x10, and I've already got it prepped with my score tape on the back, my tape around the edges for when we wrap it, just because it's going to save us some time. 1 piece 8x7, 1 piece 8x3, and then 2 spine pieces 8x3.5. Okay, I'll set those aside for right now. And let's start with our cardstock to wrap the 8x10 piece. So this is going to be 10x12. I am going to go ahead and use my 1-inch spacers for that. If you don't have the spacers, you can make them out of chipboard scraps if you want to. You can also, if you don't want to do that, you can score lightly at 1 inch on the top and on the bottom, and use that as your guide to get your chipboard placed. Okay. Our next piece is going to be 10x9. Why is it still trying to autofocus? Because I've turned it off. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I had it fixed the other day, and of course it doesn't save it, because why would it? Okay, so this one is 10x9. We're going to use this for our 8x7 piece. Let's make sure I got this one on here right. I do. Backing off of that. Go ahead and use our guides. Drop that one down. And then our 8x3 chipboard piece is going to be matted with a 10x5 cardstock. Get that one. Okay. All right, so then for our 2 spine pieces, I'm going to take out my 1 inch on the side. I'm going to put in my 1.5. And for the 2 spine pieces, you need cardstock that is 10x6.5. I'm sorry, Gus, I haven't put your chair back yet. I'm going to have to hold on for just a minute, buddy. Okay. And then one more at 10x6.5. Alright, so I'm going to set my 2 spine pieces to the side for right now. Remove my spacers and my scoreboard. Hi Gus, hold on. Let me move your chair. Sorry guys, 1 second. I know. You want your chair. Hold on, Gus. There you go. There's your chair. Sorry, the cat is incredibly spoiled, and I love him dearly. But if he's taken to sitting in the old chair that I used to use in here, I left it in here just like if my husband's in here or my son comes in here and is sitting and working on something. But the cat has decided it's his. And if it's not sitting right directly behind me, he gets incredibly irritated. Alright, so we're going to wrap our cover pieces. And all you're going to do is just fold the cardstock around the chipboard. I know, there's your chair, honey. Okay, I'm going to do this on all of our pieces. And you'll notice I already put my tape on here. I just did that because I've made enough of these. I could probably do this in my sleep. Oops, let's get that burnished down. And it will just speed things up for me with you guys not having to watch me do my tape on the edges. Unless you've done lots and lots of these, it's not something I would suggest you do ahead of time, just because it can make it a little bit more difficult to put down, or I'm sorry, to fold these side pieces over. I did. I missed an entire piece of score tape. I was like, why is that one side doesn't want to stick? It's user error. Oh my gosh. Okay. Alright, so then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut out our corners. And after you've cut out those corners, you're going to want to fold your sides in, and then just ever so slightly miter so that you don't have anything hanging out over the edge, and you end up with nice clean corners. And you do this on all your corners. Okay. On the next one, again, you're going to cut out that corner, that square in the corner. And then again, mitering. All right. So now I'm going to pull off my tape all the way around. Maybe. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to grab my glue and get it unstuck like always, because that's always the fun part. And I'm going to come along the edge of the chipboard, a little squiggle in that middle, and then I'm going to come in with the bone folder, push up against the chipboard, and then over and down. That's why I have the tape on there. You can do this with just glue. However, I've got some issues going on with my hands related to carpal tunnel, and it's much easier for me to use the glue and the tape than just the glue. Because I find when I use just the glue, I end up pushing down really, really hard and then causing issues, making the issue with my hands worse. So you don't have to use the tape if you don't want to. It will work out just fine. You can use just the glue. And we're just going to wrap all four sides. Get the glue off the bone folder would be incredibly helpful. All right, so there's our first piece. I'm actually going to grab. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap these other two. Backing does not want to cooperate on this tape today. Okay, and so again, we're going to come along the side, in the middle, and my glue is coming out really fast because I just refilled this bottle the other night when I was in here cleaning for the 748th time. Because, you know, heaven forbid I just leave stuff where it is. I have to keep moving things around, and then I can't find things, like my ink daubers. I organized the ink daubers, I put them away somewhere. I have not found them yet, and that was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So that's been fun. I'm sure you guys all really needed to know that. Okay, that one's wrapped. We're on our last one of these. It's, of course, summer break, and my son is in and out of the house 100 times a day. And that's when I'm not working. When I am working, it's almost worse. All right. Last one of these, and then we'll do our 2 spine pieces and get our cover assembled. So again, push up against the chipboard with the bone folder, over and down. All right. Okay then. So I'm going to move those off to the side. And then we're going to do the same thing with our 2 spine pieces that we're going to fold and burnish. We're going to cut out the corner again, and we're going to miter just like we did on the other pieces. Not cut all the way through, that's what I did. Okay. Now, when you're mitering on these little wings, okay, you don't want to get super aggressive, because when we go to put this together, if you wanted to, which I'm not doing this, but just so that you know you have options, you can do these wings to the outside on your cover so that you don't have that little edge that we have with the Easy Wrap method. But if you're doing that, that's where you want to make sure you don't miter that part of that too aggressively, because it makes your cover look really weird. It doesn't look quite right when you get carried away with the mitering. But I am not going to wrap it that way, but on this album. However, you do always have that option as well. And you can do it without adjusting the sizing or anything on these. Okay. All right. So on these, on the 2 spine pieces, all you're going to wrap are just the top and the bottom. You're going to leave your wings on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and get my backing up. And we're going to do the same thing as before. We're going to go along the edge of the chipboard and then up through the middle and then over and down. That's where we're going to wipe some of that off of there. We're going to wipe off the bone folder again for the 457th time. Okay. It's still end up with glue on our fingers and where we don't want it, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to do the next one. All right, so let me, just because the top of that's getting really Excuse me there. We're going to set it like so. That little bit of glue off of there. All right, so now we can turn these over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to go right along the edge of the chipboard. And I'm just going to run it back and forth so that you get that nice defined edge. So you'll see this side I haven't burnished, this side I did, and you can see the edge of that chipboard. Okay, that's what we want. If you were going to assemble this and wrap the wings to the outside, then you wouldn't do that. If you're going to do it that way with the wings to the outside, you would flip it over this way. You're going to put 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch score tape in that, up against that chipboard there, as your guide to leave that spacing so that it doesn't crack, and then you would put it down like that. But as I said, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it the normal way. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to get my glue on that tab. And of course, not the glue over because, you know, this is what we do. And then I'm going to line my edge of my album up on top of my spine. I'm going to pull it until I feel it slide off the side of that chipboard. Okay? And you want to make sure that this is even. And then you can come in here and burnish this down on this side. And when I burnish it down on this side, I'm pushing this chipboard down. Okay? All right. So now I want my 8 by 10 piece. And again, we're just going to come in here with the glue. And you want to keep the glue from going all the way to that chipboard edge because you don't want to be able to see it, which, I mean, art glitter dries clear. However, you know, you might still, especially on black cardstock, you'd still see a little bit of something that you know something's there that's, you know, not quite what you're expecting. Okay? Then over, and we're going to burnish that down again. Same thing as before. Okay? So now we're going to do our other spine. So again, we're going to burnish along like so. Okay. And again, I'm going to get glue on the tab, the wing as it were. I'm going to line up, pull it over until it drops, and drop that down. Again, flip it over, and burnish this down. And then we will do our last piece. Your chair is in its spot. You can get up there and sit, Gus. It's fine. Okay. And then here's our last one. Over and down, just like before. Stand this up. Make sure everything looks even, and it does. So then we will burnish this side down as well. All right, so our album's going to close up like so. We have a really fun closure that's going on the front of this. And if you remember my big Neverland, Lost in Neverland album from, oh my gosh, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Oh, I'm not sure how long it's been. Which is why we're revisiting this, because this is a completely different album wrap method. Works a lot better. I've kind of rethought a couple of the elements that didn't work out quite like I wanted them to, so that's why we're revisiting this and redoing this, because I think we can make it better. All right, so for our 2 spots here on the inside to reinforce. You need 2 pieces, 7 7/8 by 6. I have gone ahead and prepped the back of these with score tape. You do want to use tape on this part, not glue, because you don't want this to bubble when you put it down. And this is just going to help reinforce our whole spine area there. And I find it easier if I turn my book to the side, so I can kind of flip it upside down, kind of look where I think it's going to ultimately land. And then turn it over and put it down. We'll just burnish this down. And then I'm going to fold up and I'm going to burnish on that crease. Okay? And the same thing on the next one. Okay? And this is where we want to make sure that everything is even. Again. Okay, and then we'll do the other side. Let's again get the backing off. And again, I'm just going to flip it the wrong side, kind of line it up, eyeball about where I think I want it to go. And then turn it over and drop it down. And burnish it down again. And then we'll do the same technique. We're going to fold, burnish in that crease, and fold and work that crease again. Okay, so turn the right way, that would probably help, huh? Alright, so here is the base of our book. Okay, I'm going to set that to the side for right now. And I'm going to grab our page bases and our spine. I'm sorry, our hinge, not our spine, our hinge. I think I'm done with my little pick tool, so I'm going to put that away. Alright, so let's start with our hinge. Our hinge is going to be 7 by 7.5. Okay, with the 7-inch side at the top of your scoreboard. You're going to come in here and you're going to score every 1/2 inch. Okay, so 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5. All right. So I'm going to move that for right now, and I'm actually going to grab my paper trimmer, but I'm not sure where it went. There it is. It's just buried. It's fine. Okay. And what we're going to do after we've scored this, okay, don't do it beforehand, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take off just a tiny, tiny bit off of this outside edge. So maybe a 1/16 of an inch, if that. Okay. See, just tiny, tiny piece. Because sometimes when you go to fold this first one over, it may be just a hair too long, so then it kind of sticks. Not sticks. What's the word I'm looking for here? It gets in the way of this first hinge moving freely. Okay. So that's why we're going to take just that little bit off of each one of those sides so that when we get this all folded over and glued and all that, we're not going to have that issue. Okay, so let's get the glue ready and the bone folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold and burnish. Okay, and then we're going to glue. And then fold that down and burnish. Okay, so there's our first tab. Give that a second to dry, and then we're going to fold it up on itself and over and burnish it again. Okay, so there's your first tab. You're going to skip this spot. You're going to go to these two, and you're going to fold it in half. And fold and burnish. Okay, and we're going to come over and down, and I've got glue popping out my ends, which is fine. And we're just going to burnish that back and forth. Once we know it's down and it's good, and again, you're going to want to give it a minute or so to dry. You're going to fold it back and burnish down. Okay, I'm going to turn it over. So here's our tab, here's our gusset, and we're going to fold that tab back on itself. Okay, so there we have two tabs. And the reason I'm doing this slowly is because the last retreat, for whatever reason, we had a lot of ladies that were having problems with hinges. And I know I tend to go a little bit fast on videos anyway, partially because you guys can always stop and rewind, partially because that's just how I work, and I apologize. But it was the skipping of one little section and going to the next, which was what was throwing everybody off. So we've got 1, 2. We're going to skip this one. We're going to go to these next two and fold it in half again. Okay, and then we're going to come back again with the glue. And I used to do my hinges with tape, but oh my gosh, seriously. I think it makes them too stiff. And I haven't done them with tape for a long time, but they do go together way faster. So just know you have that as an option. And I know there's a lot of people out there that just use almost exclusively score tape for stuff. And I used to, but okay. So give that just a second. And then I'm going to come in over. This time I'm going to come with my damp one. And then burnish. And then back. We're going to bend back the other way and burnish again. Okay, so there's 3 tabs. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to skip, go to the next 2, and then in half. Okay. Now, you could go through and fold and score every pair that's going to be a tab. I've done it that way as well, but then I've ended up with hinges that end up kind of crooked almost because it's a little harder to get it folded over precisely doing it that way, and you don't want your hinge to be uneven. Okay, so we're going to fold back on itself again, and burnish again, flip it over, fold back, burnish again. There's tab number 4. We're going to skip. Now we're down on our last 2, which apparently when I trimmed my extra off of this, it was slightly crooked. But that's okay, because it's the end tab and it's not going to matter. Okay. To come in here after I do projects and like scrape glue off of this every time. All right. So here's our hinge. We're going to go ahead, and that will go in here. You're going to have quite a bit of space to the right and left. That's fine, because the elements that go on the front and back cover are a little bit chunkier, so you want that extra space. And I'm not going to glue this in just yet, because I think I do want to mat underneath it, just because there is so much on the side, and I haven't figured out my matting for that yet. So I'm going to just set these 2 things together and put them off to the side here. And then we are going to start looking at our pages, our page bases, that is. All right, so page bases. I don't know where my paper clips went. Okay. So you're going to need 5 pieces, 7.5 by 9.5, and 5 pieces, 8.5 by 9.5. 7.5 by 9.5, you don't need to do anything to. We're just going to set those aside. The other ones, the 8.5 by 9.5, with the 9.5, I'm sorry, the 8.5, at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. You're going to turn all the way around, and 1/2 inch again. And we're going to do this on all 5 of these. So again, 8.5 at the top, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Half an inch, 1/2 inch, and then one more. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. All right, so for the page bases, we are going to miter this top corner, or the corners, not just the top corner. We're going to miter all of the corners. Okay, and you're going to miter from the score line out. Okay. Go, one more. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these, and you're going to fold and burnish those score lines. Okay. And then I'm going to take one of my 7.5 by 9.5, I'm going to set it down on top. I'm going to glue on one side only for now. Okay. So when I do this, I'm going to use my table, or not, to get this. That totally slid on me. I'm sorry. There we go. Line it up side to side, and then on that edge. Okay. What you're going to want to look at now, before you glue this, is, does this 7.5 by 9.5 piece hang over the edge? If it does, before you glue it, you're going to want to put this in your paper trimmer and take off just a tiny bit so that it doesn't hang over the edge. And I still got this on here crooked because, of course, I did. But thankfully, it hasn't totally dried yet. There we go. I promise I know what I'm doing. It's just going to be one of those days, apparently. Which, if you watched Craftology, I was having one of those days that day, too. So, sorry. It happens sometimes. Okay. That's better. All right. Much better. Okay. Now, let's double check. Okay. We are not going to glue this shut yet because we're not going to do that until this actually goes on our hinge. So when this goes on our hinge, and that's the other reason, is you want to make sure that your hinge isn't too tall. Which mine apparently is, because God only knows if I was slightly off when I cut this. All I'm going to do to fix that is literally just take this and I'm just going to cut a tiny bit off the top. That way we know it's going to fit. Everything will be good. Okay, so there's one page base. Set that aside. I'm going to leave that out just so we can continue to check our pages. If you want to make it a little bit easier to get these lined up, you can cut these just a little bit short, and you can actually wrap this to the outside, okay, like so. But you do need to cut them a little bit shorter because then they're going to line up perfectly every single time. And I think I'm going to do the rest of them that way. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take just a tiny bit off of this. Let's see if that one's going to be enough. Yep, that's about perfect. So I am going to go ahead and do that because it is actually much easier to put them together that way. You don't have to worry so much about, you know, is everything straight all the way around? Is anything hanging out over the edge? Because doing this method, it won't be. But again, it's just a preference thing. If you don't like to wrap this around the outside, even though, like I said, it's going to get matted over. Nobody's going to see these little tabs. You know, I get it. And that's what's nice about mini albums, is it's not like there's, you know, a hardcore right or wrong way to be doing most of this kind of thing. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to tap this on here, make sure we're even. And then just fold and burnish. One thing to keep in mind, however, if you are planning on doing page inserts, you know, so little pullouts, when you wrap it this way, that will make them just a little bit tighter. So keep that in mind if you've got, you know, a larger insert or something that you're wanting to do on a page. Man, this is still off. What did I do? I cut these with my dolly. I wonder if it just slid when I was cutting. Again, wouldn't surprise me. I'm really good at doing that. All right, so let's go ahead and get the rest of these put together. I didn't check this one to make sure. Yep, we're still good. Okay. I'll drop the next one in here. Make sure everything lays down right. It does. I think that's exactly what happened. I think it slipped when it was in the trimmer. But it'll be fine. Okay. Again. Put that down, and I will get those edges fixed up here. Seriously, like, very weird. Had to have slid when it was in the trimmer. Because even though you can cut more than one sheet at a time of the Artisan with the big dolly cutter, maybe you shouldn't always do it. Because this is what happens. It's okay. It's fine. Stuff happens. And not to mention, it's handmade. It's not going to be perfect. It's just one of those things. There we go. We'll just fix both of them that way. All right. Get that in there. Hi, Gus. Okay. That one's pulling up. Because apparently I didn't get enough glue. Gus, buddy. What's wrong? I'm just going to try this here. We're good. This one. And again. We're fine. We're fine. Okay. And the last one. I know, Gus. I know. Okay. That is like way goopy this time. It's okay. All right. Sorry about that. I'm all over the place today and I apologize. All right, so those are ready. I am going to pause for a second. I'm going to find my matting for the spine and the front and back inside covers, and I will be back. Okay, so before we go any further, we are going to go ahead and do our closure that's going to go on the front, just because we have some magnets we need to place before any of this ever gets matted, and it's definitely going to be easier to mat the outside of your book before you put anything in it. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I've got my matting cut, and I'm using, it's actually the back side of one of the tag sheets. So I've got that cut to go on here. And then I've got this piece that's going to go in our closure, because the entire thing is going to lift off, all right? For the closure, you will need a piece of acetate. It is 4.5 by 11.5. So I've drawn this out on just a normal, scrap piece of cardstock so that you can see what it is we're doing, which is what I should have done the last time I did a shaker closure that was similar to this same style, because I don't know why I didn't think of it at the time, because who knows. Anyway, so what we're going to do is you're going to score this on all 4 sides at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. Okay, so 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1/2 inch, 3/4. Okay. Okay, so this one is scored. After you score it, you're going to come in here and you're going to cut up that score line to the second score line. Okay. You're going to then do it on the next side as well. Okay. And you're going to turn it. You're going to cut all the way through here, so those 2 pieces come off, and then just up to where you trimmed on that one. So you're going to have this little corner that's going to look like this, only you're going to have one little tab. Okay? We're going to do this on all 4 corners. So again, we're going up to that second score line, just cutting on the score line that's coming this way. We're going to turn it. We're going to cut up to the first score line, and then we're going to cut through there. So this is what your corner looks like. Okay. I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to go up through, turn it. I'm going to cut along that one. Then I'm going to cut along that one. Okay. And again. And again. Okay. So when you have cut all of those, this is what your piece is going to look like. Okay. Score lines, the funny little corners with the tabs. Okay. So now, before I do anything else, I am going to grab my 3/8 inch score tape, and I am going to go around. So I've got my acetate piece sitting on top of this white piece, so not that it helps you see it any better. You'll be able to see it better in a second here. And I'm just going to run score tape along that outside tab. Okay, so along these tabs here. Okay, we're just going to run score tape on all of those. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fold and burnish, and you want to do this really, really, really hard. But the nice thing is once you get the acetate folded, it pretty much stays exactly like you want it. Okay, I'm going to come along that one first, and then I'm going to push back and get my 1/4 inch. I'm sorry, my 1/2 inch. Fold it on the 3/4 first, and then back to the 1/2. Okay, so it's going to stand up like that. Okay, so if I do it on here so you can see, it's going to stand up like so. Okay, we're going to do this on all 4 sides. This time I think I'm going to start with my 1/2 inch and then get my 3/4 inch. Yeah, I think that works better. So start with your 1/2 inch and then get your 3/4 inch, and there you go. Okay, so again, starting with the 1/2 inch and then my 3/4 inch. And then you can push it back over and it's going to stand up. Okay, and one more. And of these, the longest one is going to be the one that's going to be a little bit harder to do. Not a lot, but it's going to feel a little bit harder just because it's long. But you can totally do it. Okay, and folding over my 3/4 inch and going along that. Okay, so now we have our box. Okay, so you'll see here we've got a 1/4 inch gusset, and I'm a little bit ahead of myself. I'm not even sure what I'm putting in here as far as shakers go, so we're going to go ahead and get this mostly assembled, and we're going to leave this top part open so that I can fill it later. But this way, at least it gets us to where we can get our magnets placed and have that much ready to go. So the piece that's going to go inside, okay, so where we've got that score tape, that's going to attach to the back side of this piece, which is the bottom part of that same, let me grab the sheet. Okay, so it's this bottom part of this sheet. Okay. So the front of this finished is going to be 3 by 10. This piece is 2 15/16 by 9 15/16. Okay, you don't want 1/8 of an inch off because that's going to be too much. You just need that 1/16 of an inch so it sits just inside here without it being too short or too long. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start on this side. I'm going to pull up my score tape. I'm going to push the bottom of this against that fold line. Okay. And I realize this is kind of hard to see. There's really not a good way to show you. Well, maybe I can. Okay. So we're going to put it, so you've got your 3/4 inch and your 1/2 inch. You're going to put it against that 3/4 inch score line and then fold that down over the top. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, but once you've done this once or twice and you start kind of, exploring all the different things you can do with acetate, oh my gosh, you guys. Once the zoo paper is done, wait until you see my next one. You are going to die. Okay, so we're going to fold that in, and we're going to do the same thing on the sides. We're going to leave this open so that later I can put my shaker fill. I might actually put, because I've got some ephemera pieces. Where'd they go? That's not the one. Okay, well this was the one that came with my design team package, and then I actually did get the other one. There it is. that came that you could get as well. So I may put some of these in here, a couple of them in here just kind of floating around. Haven't really decided yet. We'll figure that out. But before we do that, you've got your two little bitty tabs here, okay? You're going to fold those up. Because these are tiny and you're not really going to see them, we can do this with art glitter glue. We can do this with glossy accents. Either one will hold, but the glossy accents will dry completely clear and it will dry faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a tiny, tiny bit on that little tab. I'm going to fold it up and over to make that little square on the front of my shaker, okay? And I should tuck that in first. Tuck the paper in before you do that. But like I said, fortunately, you know, it doesn't dry immediately, but it doesn't take hours and hours to dry either. Now we're going to pull that off. Fold everything over. And, sorry, I gotta take this off. I cannot get my hand in there. And you're just gonna burnish that down. Okay. This back will get covered up after we get our magnets and everything placed so this sits on the front of the book. Okay. So on this side, again, I've got my paper tucked in. I'm gonna get this up and ready to go. Again, it's going to take just a little bit of kind of fussing around with it. I'm going to go ahead and get my backing off of my score tape, maybe. Oh my gosh, some days, I'm telling you. And I think this went down too far. Just a tiny bit. But it'll be okay. We're going to just ignore it. So again, tiny bit of glossy accents. Tuck that in. Tuck that piece in. If it wants to not fight with me. And then up and over. And down. Okay, so eventually I will figure out here in the next little bit what is going inside my shaker here. And once I get that, I'll go ahead and fill it. I'll go ahead, do the same thing with my glossy accents on these tabs, pull off my score tape, and then this will just seal down like so. And you're going to kind of have to, push from the other side, but it's totally doable, okay? So I'm going to put this to the side for right now. Okay, what we want to do is we want to get our magnets set on here. In order for this to hold the way we want it to hold, you are going to need at least 3 sets. I would say 4 just to be on the safe side, okay? So let's get these popped out of here. We are going to use magnets inside as well in a couple of places, but most of them, this is where they're going. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a magnet there. Magnet here. Another set. The next one. Other than I want to, before I put this third one down, actually we can put that one all the way to that side. What we want to do kind of hold it closed, lay this on top, because you don't want it where this last magnet is between your opening here. Oh, sorry, out of frame. Apologize. Okay, so you're going to hold it kind of like this. You want this one more to this side so that it's not in the middle of where your opening is, okay? So it just stuck itself to the bottom of my mat. Okay, so I'm going to go about right here with that one. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of one set. Actually, 3 sets, sorry. I think I just did do that wrong. Hold on. I did. I'm not even thinking. Okay, so make sure that you realize you're doing that upside down. Otherwise, you'll make a mess just like I just almost did. And for the record, when I had done, you know, a similar closure a couple of years ago, I had this exact same issue. So this is why we're doing this very, very first, because I did not, and I made a gigantic mess of that project. I had to remake this front piece, I kid you not, like 4 times. Okay, so we know this is going to sit on the bottom, and it's going to run edge to edge. Okay, trying to make this easier on us by doing this. There we go. All right, that makes it a lot easier. Okay, so this is going to sit edge to edge. So I'm going to come down in this lower left corner. I'm going to set this down, and I'm just going to push. Okay. Now, God willing, there we go. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to get my backing off of my magnet, maybe. Okay. I'm going to let that grab where it needs to grab. Make sure that these 2 pieces are pushed together where they need to be. And then I'm going to push that side down. Okay. So now your magnets are placed. You can go ahead and, after you've filled this and everything, you can go ahead and cut a mat to go on the back of that so that it, you know, looks good when you pull it off. But that will hold your book closed. And you can go ahead and mat the front of this. So I've got those cut. So I can go ahead and put those down really quickly. And I am going to open this up face down just to make it easier to get my matting placed where I want it. Okay, and then we'll go to our other side. Okay. I just love this paper. I can't even tell you. I was so excited that this was what I was sent. I can't even explain it. Okay, so there you go. So there's your front. And there's your closure. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, so you can go ahead and mat the rest of the outside of the book. On the inside, you're going to want to mat here, here, here. I'm trying to think what goes here. You can mat. I don't think you need to do anything on this one, but you need to mat here, here, and then of course you can do those two, but you don't have to do these two yet. You can save those and use whatever you have left at the very end. But before we get that far, let me move that out of the way. Okay, so I've matted my two spots inside. I'm going to go ahead and get my hinge down. So all I'm going to do is just center this up. And if you want to use a ruler or something to do that, you can. Top to bottom, of course, is going to be easy. It's going to be that side to side that's going to be a little bit trickier. And all I'm doing is just getting glue all over the back of my hinge. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball where I want that to go. Kind of make sure that this way just a touch. And I'm going to make sure it's kind of good there. All right, and once you get that down, you're just going to kind of burnish in between those the hinges. Okay, we're going to set this aside for just a second, and I'm going to grab the scoreboard, and I'm going to grab the stuff for our front inside cover. So this is, you need one piece 6 by 6.5, one piece 6 by 12. I'm going to start with the 6 by 12, and we are just going to score this with the 12 inches at the top of the scoreboard. We're just going to score this in half at 6 inches. Okay. This one, with the 6.5 at the top of the scoreboard, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch. So I'm going to find my bone folder. Okay, so I'm going to fold this over, make sure it's even, lined up, all that jazz. Then I'm going to burnish that fold. I'm going to do the same thing on this. Fold and burnish. And then I am going to miter that. So this is going to go down right here. And it's going to open up like so. Okay? So one thing we want to do is we want to make sure that when we put this down, when we attach this together, that it's going to close up right. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to put glue on that tab. I'm going to, okay, so this is my side that's going to open. It's going to get glued to this back part. What I'm going to do is hang this on the other piece that's going to open. Okay, so I'm hanging this on here. I'm closing this up, pushing that tab down in, and then pinching it closed. And then that will open and close the way we need it to. Now, this is one of the places where I'm doing a little bit different closure or different element than what I had done before. Before we had a pull out like this that actually was magnetized and stuck in the book, and then there still ended up being ribbon on it. It was just, you know, one of those things that it was kind of cute at the time, but I wasn't thrilled with how it turned out. So what we're going to do instead is I have a little scrap here, and this is about 2 inches. So we're going to cut it to 2 inches because it's actually kind of a tiny bit bigger than that. Okay. I don't know if I can do it without moving the paper, huh? Okay. So this is going to be 2 inches, and we're going to go by 4 inches. Okay. And this is just going to be from one of my scraps. And really, once you get into this, you know, and cutting all the inside elements, the flaps and things, there's going to be a lot of it that you're going to be able to get from your scraps. Not including a couple of the inserts we're going to do. I did this entire thing with one package of Artisan. Okay, so we're going to score this at 2 inches and 2 1/8. Okay, just so it's got a little bit of room so that once it's matted and there's pictures and whatnot, it has some space to expand. And we're going to take, there's going to be one, okay, so it's going to close up. This is going to glue onto the back, and then we're going to put a magnet right here to hold this closed. You could do ribbon around this into the book and do it that way, but that is not what I want to do with this time. So I am going to just take my glue. I'm going to put it on the inside of this. I'm going to turn this over, and again, I'm just going to center this up. And it doesn't have to be exact. Unless you want it to be exact, then by all means. Okay, and I'm going to grab a set of magnets. Okay. Go ahead and put that in the center of that. And then I end up putting this away and then getting it right back out every time. Okay, and then that's just going to fold up over like so. And then this, we're going to get glue on the back here, and this is just going to go down in the book. We could actually do a second one of that little tab on the top if you wanted to. That would actually be really cute. But I'm just going to use one. Okay. And I am going to just eyeball this, get it centered as best I can, and down. Open that up and just kind of smooth that out. And there's our first element in our book. Okay, so we have our pages. And I think the best way to do this, really, I've been kind of debating with myself back and forth how I wanted to do this. And apparently I've lost my page bases because I don't see them. There they are. Okay. So we could go ahead and put all of our pages. Sorry, I keep thinking I'm in frame because I've got something above with my camera that I can see it like twice. I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, okay. So we could go ahead and put these in like so, and then put all of our flaps on them. But I think it's going to be easier on most of these to do it, to put most of our elements on. Well, no, that's not going to work, is it? Okay, we're going to do them one at a time. That's how I was going to do it. Sorry, I seriously spent time thinking about how I was going to do this. Okay, so we are going to work from the back of the book forward. Okay, so we're going to start with page 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my page base. I'm going to fold my tab over. I'm going to put some glue. And then I am going to just center this up because this is I got a little carried away when I was trimming it down, so it's actually a little bit shorter than I had wanted it to be, but that's okay. We don't want it going all the way to the inside. We want it out just a hair. Okay, and then we're going to fold this tab over, fold this in, and then glue that tab down. What you can do, if you don't want this space in here to be that deep, like you wanted to just maybe put, you know, a tag or something on the end there that's only going to come in about this far, you can put glue through this entire section. Okay. I'm not going to do that, but you can. Okay, so I'm going to get glue on my tab here. I get glue on my tab up here. I'm going to fold this over, burnish it down there, and then fold this over and burnish it down up here, and have glue leak everywhere again. There we go. Okay, let's get it off there before we end up sticking that page to the back of the book. All right, so we are going to start on the back of page 5. So let me find. All right, so the back inside, we just have basic pocket, large pocket, but just a basic pocket. So we are going to start with our flap. Our flap is 4 by 9.5 with the 4-inch at the top of the scoreboard. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch. Okay. And I've lost my scissors again now. Oh my God, seriously, I just need to like go to bed. But I'm behind, so I really need to get this done. Okay, so I'm going to miter the top of the flap. And set that aside. Okay, so pocket 6 by 10.5. We're going to start with the 10.5 at the top. We're going to score 1/2 inch, turn, 1/2 inch, turn, and then 1/2 inch again. Now, for the mitering, we are going to miter the top corners of the pocket. We are going to miter through the score line here, okay? So you can see where the score line crosses. We're going to come through just like that, okay? And that will keep our pocket from being too bulky, like weirdly bulky in the corners where it kind of pops up. Fold that. Oops. Okay. We're going to dry fit it first to make sure everything's good. It is. Okay. We're going to go to this inside edge, outside edge. Finish that bottom part down. I'm actually going to lay it that way to burnish it. Okay. And then we'll get our sides. And then I think it slid on me. It did. This is not my day, guys. I'm telling you, I'm so sorry. I should not be doing this today, I'm telling you. I should be like... But, you know, most of you know by now, this is how my tutorials go some days. Okay, we're going to go the outside edge, bottom corner, and then we're going to come up and over. And I have glue literally everywhere. Holy crap. Okay, there we go. That is our pocket. It still does not want to stick. See this? Maybe it's not me. Scrapbook gods are angry at me, apparently. Okay. So I'm going to flip this upside down so that I can do my top flap. I'm going to get glue off of my fingers. Most of it anyway. Just get the wet stuff off my fingers. Okay. And this is just going to go up top. All right, to that top edge. Okay. Okay, so for this one, you can do any kind of closure you want. You can do ribbon, you can do magnets, you can do whatever you want. I'm not honestly sure which way I want to go on this. I might do like the policy envelope closure on that because I do like those. We're not going to worry about the glue that kind of went everywhere because it'll get matted over. It won't matter. Okay, so this is going to go over this way. We're going to get our next one. So this one's fun. However, before we can actually put it down, the base does need to be matted, and I'm not sure what I'm going to mat it with. So we're going to build this piece, and then I'm just going to set it to the side, and I'll actually put it down in the book later when I'm matting. But what we're going to do, actually before we do that, is we're going to get some ribbon on here, because this one we are going to do a ribbon closure. So I have green, I have kind of a rust color, and I have some tan. And I think I'm going to use the green on this one. And I am going to grab my score tape, which I don't know what I did with it. Oh, there it is, the smaller one. That's what I wanted. Okay, so I'm going to put a small piece down here, about the center. So we're going to go about right here. And then same thing up here. And then I'm just going to put that down there. Here we go. All right. Oh my God, I need to go to bed. And it's only like 7 o'clock. Okay. So I'm going to do about 12 inches or so. And then same thing the other direction. Let's just unroll the whole thing. Ugh. Okay. We'll move that. Alright, so when this goes down in the book, you will mat this page first, and then this will go down. But let's go ahead and build this. I don't remember what I called this when I designed it originally, and it was one of the elements from the original version of this project that I wanted to keep, but I had come up with a better way to do it because I had tried to do it with magnets, and it took, oh my gosh, I think 4 sets of magnets plus like some little metal pieces in between to get everything to lay down and stay put. We don't want to do that. Okay, first one, 3.5 by 4.5. With the 4.5 on the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. next one is 4 by 5.5. With the 5.5 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. The next is going to be 4.5 by 6.5. And again, 6.5 at the top, score at 1/2 inch. Next is 5 by 7.5, and my autofocus is off. Why does it keep doing this? This is going to make me crazy. I'm so sorry, you guys. It's something with some update or something that the autofocus is turned off, yet it still keeps kind of jumping, and I don't know why. But it is driving me insane. I apologize. I'm going to have to find different software, I guess, because this is unsat. Okay, 5 by 7.5. With the 7.5 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. The next one is 5.5 by 8.5. Again, 5.5 at the top, or I'm sorry, 8.5 at the top, score at 1/2 inch. And our last one is 6. Oh my Lord. This is crazy. I'm literally going to have to stop mid-tutorial and find different software because this is ridiculous. Okay, 6 by 9.5. 9.5 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. The biggest one, which is our base piece, you're not going to miter. The rest of them, you're going to miter your corners. Okay. So we're going to start with our 2 smallest pieces. Okay. So how this is going to work, actually before we do that, okay, you're going to have your base piece is going to sit in your book. Actually, I take it back. Maybe we don't. No, we do not have to. We can put this down. This will be good. Okay. So this will pull out to this side. Okay. So the next size down is going to go the other direction. Next size is going to go that way, then that way, then that way, and then this way. Okay. So you want your tab for your second smallest on your right. You want your tab for your smallest on your left. Okay. We're going to fold and burnish. I am going to get some glue on there, and then I'm just going to center this on the end, like so. Excuse me. All right, I'm going to take my next piece, next size up. We're going to put our tab on our left-hand side. The other one is going to be on the right-hand side. We're going to fold the one on the right-hand side and burnish. Get our glue on here and center it up again. Okay. And it's just going to continue to go back and forth. So our next one, your tab's going to be on your right again. You're going to take your left tab, fold and burnish. I actually have that one turned upside down, but that's okay. Artisan is very forgiving. It's not going to matter. We did not fold to the bumpy side. It'll be fine. And again, we're going to adhere that one down. Okay, so tab's on the right. Next one, tab is going to be on the left. Okay, we're going to fold and burnish. Okay, and again, there we go. Okay, tab on the left, tab on the right. We're going to fold our tab on the left and burnish. We're going to put our glue on. And then we're going to attach it again to the edge. Okay. And if you have attached them all correctly, this whole thing will fold out like so. Now, this is where, let me just double check and make sure I'm not imagining. Oops. Really, you could have it go either direction. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Nope, that'll be just fine. We can go ahead and put this down. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and miter that bottom section. Okay. I'm going to turn my book sideways. I'm going to put glue on my tab and center it up. Okay, so then this will tie and hold this whole little unit closed. And there you go. All right, so let's go ahead and attach our next page base. So again, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to put glue on the back side of this tab. I'm going to line it up. Give it just a little bit of space. Fold this over and burnish it down. Okay, and then we can fold this one up and glue it down as well. This is the one that was. Okay. So again, we're going to go on here. We're going to go on here. And we're going to fold, burnish that down, and burnish this down as well. Okay, so there's our next page. Okay, we're going to start on the back of page 4, but before we do that, I am going to turn this off and I am going to figure out how to fix this stinking camera because this is driving me nuts. I'll be right back, hopefully without it trying to autofocus on me. All right, hopefully we have fixed the bouncing autofocus issue that we were having. Hopefully, just fingers crossed, because this is seriously making me crazy. I have like uninstalled, reinstalled. Anyway, okay, so back side of page 4. We are going to have a belly band on top of the belly band. So our first piece is going to be 8.5 by 4.5. We're going to score this with the 8.5 at the top at 1/2 inch. Turn it 1/2 inch again. The smaller one is 5.5 by 3. With the 5.5 at the top, we're going to score it 1/2 inch. And all the way around, 1/2 inch. Okay. We are going to go ahead and miter. Move that to the side for a second. Miter. Alright, so I am going to fold my tabs over and burnish for the bigger piece. And we're not going to mat this first because typically with belly bands you can just slide it underneath, so it's not really an issue. Okay, so I'm going to figure out about where this is going to sit. I'm just going to center it. Okay. Alright. And get the other end. And why is nothing sticking for me? Oh my gosh. This is insane. Doesn't seem to matter how much glue I use. Nothing wants to stick tonight. Okay. Burnish those down. Go ahead and fold and burnish the tabs on our smaller one. And that is just going to center and sit on top of the other one. Okay, that's that. Okay, so for the front of page 4, we'll grab the scoreboard again. So this, we've got a pocket and a flap with a couple of flaps on the flap. So we are going to work on our flaps first. I'm sure I cut 2 of these because there's only one. Okay. So you need one flap that is 6 by 7. For some reason I cut 2. I'm not sure why. I think because I was just in a phase where there were like 2 of everything, and I think I just thought I needed it. So 6 by 7 with the 7-inch at the top of the scoreboard. We're going to score this at that's right, okay, at 1/2 inch, and then 5/8 of an inch. Okay, we're going to miter. Set that to the side. Then we have 2 small flaps, 5 by 5.5, with the 5.5 at the top of the scoreboard. We're going to score at 1/2 inch. And then we're going to miter. Okay, I'll move that for just a second. So this flap is going to go on the bottom. Okay, and it's going to come down like so. These 2 are going to go on the inside of that flap. So I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish both of my tabs. And we're going to do these kind of to the bottom. Okay. And they're just going to go like so and overlap on each other. Okay. I haven't folded my little 1/8 inch gusset yet. I've just folded the top tab because that one's going to be easier to fold once this is adhered down. And then with those 1/8 inch gussets, you can always just roll them kind of back on themselves. I don't know how else to explain it. but we're just going to center this on the bottom. I'm just having a horrible time with the glue today. And I put those, no, I didn't put those too far, they're good. Okay, once that's adhered down, then you can kind of roll that back, and then it just will kind of go where it needs to go. Okay, so there's going to be 2 pockets that are going to sit underneath here. For those pockets, you have 2 pieces, 5.5 by 4.5. We are going to score with 5.5 on the top at 1/2 inch, turn, and then 1/2 inch. Okay, you're going to do the same thing on the other one. You're going to go 1/2 inch, turn, and then 1/2 inch. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to miter my corners. You're going to miter through the corner where the score lines cross. And then, because these are going to, you can either put them, because we're going to cut an angle on here, you can either put them so the angles face each other, or you can put these where they're in the center and the angles face out. And I don't know which way I want to do it. Either way, we're going to stack these together. I'm going to take my ruler, and from the score line, I'm going to measure over 1.5 inches, and I'm going to put a little tick mark. Okay? I'm going to turn them up so that the long side is coming down this way. And again, from the score line, I am going to measure up 1.5 inches and make a little tick mark. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is just go from those 2 tick marks, cross, draw a line. And then I'm going to get, you can do this with your paper trimmer, you can do it with scissors, it's entirely up to you. I'm just going to get my big scissors, and I am just going to cut down that line with these stacked together like so. Okay, so now I'm going to fold and burnish. Pull our book back in, fold our tab down, our flap down, and we can either put these like so, or we can put them like so. I think I'm going to do them so that they face each other. And I'm just going to go to the edge of my page. And again, this is one where you can mat this after the fact because your matting will slide down right behind those pockets. Okay, get our other side. I think my camera issue was there was the software that I used to record, and then there was another like camera setting software that I think were competing with each other. So it didn't matter that the autofocus was off on both of them. Both of them were still trying to autofocus. So, yay. Okay, so we're going to put a magnet on this. And if you're keeping track, yes, at this point we have gone through an entire package of the large magnets. But I've been really good lately. I haven't used many of them lately for projects. And I love magnets. You have no idea. I would use them on everything if I could. Okay. All right, so there's that. Let's go to our next page base. And again, we're gonna open this up. We're gonna lay it down. We're gonna give it just a tiny bit of space. And then burnish that down. And then we'll come in, roll this up just to double check. And then over, and fold that tab down. I have just got glue everywhere today. Oh my gosh. And I'm sure you're probably going, yeah, you've said that about 70 times. Stop. I'll try. I'm really sorry. Okay. That one actually looks like it went on there a tiny bit crooked, but you know what? It's handmade. I don't care. All right. Back side of page 3. So on this one, we have 2 pockets. You need 2 pieces, 12 by 4.5. Okay, I'm going to put the 12-inch side at the top of the scoreboard. I am going to figure out where my notebook is because I don't remember where I scored this at. Hold on. All right, so we're going to score at 3 inches. Bear with me, I apologize. And then at 8 inches. Okay, do on this one as well. 3 inches, and then 8 inches. And we're going to turn it. And we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Turn it all the way around. And 1/2 inch again. So 1/2 inch down the long side. And again at 1/2 inch. So what we're going to do, and you've seen me do this before, so this should not be anything new. We are going to, from this bottom piece, we're going to cut at just a slight angle to miter. And then we're going to cut all the way down this score line. If it's easier for you to do this in a trimmer, go ahead. I'm just going to use my bigger scissors. Okay. And I'm going to turn it to the other side and do the same thing. And you do want to, oops, hang on to the scissors. You do want to cut right down that score line. Okay. And then you can miter at your bottom corners. Okay. So that is what it'll look like when you're done. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing again. Actually going to go ahead and do that mitering right now. And then cut up that score line. Turn it over. And again. Okay. Now, all we're going to do is fold those tabs in and burnish them down. Fold it up. Burnish it again. And then glue it down. Okay, and then that will just fold down over the top. If you've got where it's, see mine's kind of hanging off a little bit on the one side, I'm just gonna just get that little bit that's sticking out off. Okay. Now this one you do need to mat underneath it before you put these down. So for now, I'm not going to actually glue them down. I'm just going to set them to the side. You can do, again, magnet closure on this if you want to. You can do, it's just slightly off. You can do a magnet closure, you can do ribbon, you can do like the policy envelope style. It's up to you. But when you go to adhere these down, you're going to mat this. You're going to do adhesive on 3 sides only so that this also functions as kind of like a small pocket for a tag that's going to sit back behind there. Okay? So these are going to be spaced like this, so you do need to mat that sheet before you put these down. So I am going to clip these back together and set them to the side. And we will do the other side. So this one, we've got some kind of fun little angled pockets. So our first one is 6 by 3. And again, we're just going to go 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. One long side, one short side. The next one is 6 by 5. So 5 by 6. Same thing again, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And then the last one is 6 by 7. And again, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So, the original book, I had these, actually turn it that way, there we go. I had them stacked like this and then angled. I don't think I want to do it that same way again. So, I think this time we're going to have, they're going to kind of go across from each other. And then this one's going to sit on top over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my paper trimmer. I am going to cut. So we've got a score line here and a score line here. You're going to cut straight across that. Okay? So I'm going to line this up in my trimmer. Like so. All right. So I'm going to hang on to this because I will use this as my template to cut the matting for these pockets. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing on this one. And again, this should fit exactly. It does. So again, I'm just going to hang on to that so I can use it as a template for my matting so I don't have to mess up too many pieces of paper because I'm really good at doing that, as I'm sure you all well know. Okay, same thing with that one. Now, we are going to miter through the bottom where the score lines cross. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead, back to the side, and I'm going to fold my tabs down. And you'll notice when you do that, you get a little piece that hangs over there. All you're going to do is just aggressively miter that corner, and then it will sit down underneath. Same thing on this side. You're just going to aggressively miter that corner. Okay. And this one is going to go down over here. And again, because of the way these pockets are going down, you can do the matting. You can slip that back behind it, so you don't need to mat it before you put this down. Okay. Alright, I'll find my next one. It's going to go on the opposite side. So that's going to look weird because they're different sizes. Maybe we're going to add something else to this. Or did I have something else? I think I did actually have something else to add to this. I apologize. I think I wrote it down and I don't think I actually cut it. So bear with me for a second. Let's go ahead and get these down. Okay, so that's going to sit on top there. Okay, so now this one, again, we're going to aggressively miter. And I'm going to do it there even before I fold it, because it will be just fine. Other than this doesn't want to glue down again. Ugh. And I have got to go to bed. Oh my gosh, it's like 9 seconds. Okay, and then this one, I don't like that angle. We're not going to use this one. Just kidding. Never mind. We're not going to use that because I don't like how that looked. There we go. Wipe that glue off of there. Okay. So I think what I decided to do on this one instead of doing the other pocket, because I think there was like kind of just a long skinny one that's supposed to go down that side. And I don't know where my notes are to double check, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, so the one that's going to come down this other side, so I can find a piece in here that will work. So this is going to be 9.5. No, not 9.5. What is that going to be? Hold on, I apologize. 7.5. Hello. Okay. So we're going to go 8.5 by, I believe this is 3 inches. Yep. 8.5 by 3. We are going to score this on the ends at 1/2 inch. And then we are going to miter. We're going to fold and burnish. And we are going to glue on our tabs. And then we're just going to do a thin bead along the bottom, because this isn't going to be like a really big pocket to hold a lot of stuff. It's mostly going to hold maybe a photo mat or two, maybe an insert, a small insert, whatever. Okay, let's go ahead and get that down. And there we go. We're ready to move on to our next one. Okay, so again, we're going to open that up. I'm going to put glue on that tab on our hinge. I'm going to slide this in, get it almost, but not quite all the way over. Fold this over and down. And you'll notice how, for the most part, our pages are actually laying fairly flat, doing it this way, which is what we want. We don't want, I mean, it's almost impossible to get them to lay completely flat without doing really overly complicated hinges, and I don't want to do that. Okay. Burnish that down. Okay, this one we're actually going to do the front of page 2 first, because there's a couple of waterfalls that go on the back, and it will be easier to get this page done correctly if we do the waterfalls last. You can see we've got the ends of these are open, so you could put tags. I honestly might come back along and glue those shut. I really have not decided at this point. So, okay, this one, we're going to have a belly band that's going to run through the middle. And then we've got some kind of offset flaps. So, for our belly band, this is 2.5 by 10.5. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch on each end. And then we are going to miter. Okay. We have 2 flaps that are 5 by 6.5. Double check here. So with the 5 inch at the top of the scoreboard, we're going to score at 1/2 inch on both of these. And we're going to go ahead and miter. Okay, so let's do our belly band first. So I'm going to fold and burnish our 2 tabs. And I'm going to get glue on there. And then this, turn the book sideways. I am just going to center this. I'm going to eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact, of course, but as close to center as you can get it. And put those tabs down. The other two flaps, I'll go ahead and fold and burnish that tab on both of those. And they are going to go like so that they're offset. So I'm going to do this bottom one first. Put that down. And then turn this around. And do the other side. Okay, so closure on this, I had done a magnet on my original one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. I'm going to think about that because I don't know that I necessarily want to use another magnet right there. So now we're going to go back to the back side of this where we've got a double waterfall. So the waterfall is going to be a 4x6 and a 3x4 side by side. Okay, so you're going to have, at this point I've got 7 pieces that are 4 and 5/8 by 3 1/8. Okay, we're going to score these at 1/2 inch with the 4 and 5/8 at the top. Now I'm not sure that we're going to use all 7 of these, so if you're cutting as we go along, of course, you'll be able to adjust as we go. And then I've got 7 that are 4 and 5/8 by 6 1/8. And again, 4 and 5/8 at the top. We're going to score it 1/2 inch. And if you don't want to use a waterfall, if you want to do a different size waterfall, if you want to do something completely different, you absolutely can. And really, that's the case with this entire album. If there's anything that you want to move around, that you maybe don't want it where I've put it, by all means, you can change which page any of these elements go on. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish. Okay, there's one set. Let's do our other ones. Because you knew you weren't getting out of this without a waterfall, right? Okay, so how I think I'm going to do this. I am going to do, this one is going to come, so it's going to fold out this way. This one is going to come up from the bottom and fold down. Okay, just for something a little bit different. And And really, this is one of these, again, where we need to mat underneath this. So I will actually come back to this in a minute. I'm sure most of you know how to put a waterfall in, but just in case, I am going to hang on to that for right now because I don't know for sure which mat I'm using on that one. So let's go ahead and put our last page base in. So again, we're just opening that up. We're getting our glue on the tab, lining this up, leaving it about 1/16 of an inch away from where this tab is going to fold over. Okay, brush that down good. And then we're going to do glue and glue. Fold it over and over. And again, I'm going to clean up that extra glue right there. Okay, so back page 1 is super simple. We have a tuck spot and some opposing flaps that will tie closed over it. So the tuck spot does not need any scoring. It is 1.5 by 9.5. The flaps, there's going to be 2 of these, and these are 7.5 by 3.5. And you're going to score these with the 3.5 at the top of the scoreboard. I score it 1/2 inch. We're going to miter those flaps. That's flat. Okay. I just want to double check. For some reason, I was second guessing myself that that tuck spot didn't have anything in it as far as any kind of gusset. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish our score lines. I'm going to turn this sideways. And we're going to come in with this okay. And then the other side, I gotta turn this around, sorry. Okay. And then we're just going to run a tiny bead of glue. I just want to make sure before you try to glue this down, make sure that these are going to close over that. You may need to take just a tiny bit off of one end. A little bit more. Okay. There we go. All right, so I am just going to do like so. And then down we go. Okay, so this one needs some ribbon. And for this one, I think we're going to use the rust. So let me get a couple of pieces of score tape. And again, I'm just going to eyeball it. As far as where my halfway point is. And it's better to go a little bit long and then adjust it afterwards. And ask me how I know that. I've had more than one tutorial where I have cut ribbon too short and then I'm trying to tie it. By the time I figured it out, it's too late to do anything about it. Okay, so this one, it is going to go out like so. And like so. And then this is just going to tie closed. Okay, so now, and honestly, the front of this page was a big part of why I wanted to redo this project, because I had done like this kind of shaker pocket, and I made a gigantic mess of the entire front of this page and had to do a whole lot of surgery to fix it. And it looked fine in pictures. It does not look fine in person. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this a little bit differently than I had done previously. So we have a pocket, and I was like, what is that? Okay, so we have a pocket that's going to go down here. The pocket is not quite as wide as the page, so I'm going to get the pocket ready, but we're not actually going to adhere it down just yet because this does need to be matted before we put this one down. Okay. So we're going to start, it's 5 by 9. We are going to score this, maybe not, there it is. Let's put the big scissors away. At 1/2 inch, starting on the 9-inch side, turn 1/2 inch, turn, and then 1/2 inch again. I'm going to go ahead and miter this just like we normally do our pockets. And then, okay, so I'm going to set that aside for right now. So this time, we're going to do this a little bit differently. I have 2 pieces of acetate that are 10.5 by 7 1/4. What we are going to do, let me find my notebook really fast and make sure. Okay, so what we're going to do is with the 10.5 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score this at 5.5 inches. Okay, what this is going to do, I'm going to have to wipe this off because of course it's dusty. We're going to fold this up. We are going to put, which I actually need to trim these. There's going to be a couple of construction strips that are going to go on the ends. There's going to be one that's going to go on the bottom. However, before that happens, let's go ahead and score this other one while we've got them here. So again, we're going to score it 1/2 inch. This is with the 10.5 at the top. And then we're going to score it 5.5. Okay. we are going to do is this. We are going to fold this in half at our score line that I now cannot see for some reason. I don't think I went over that hard enough. Let's try that again. Okay, half an inch. There we go. And when you're scoring acetate, you do have to be somewhat aggressive. Okay, so let's redo this one too because I didn't score this one hard enough either. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to fold this up like so. I still cannot find my score line. That one's there. So I'm going to fold my ½ inch first because it is nice and clear. For some reason, this one just does not want to score. But that's fine because we're going to do that like so. Okay? And I do need to wipe these off, so give me just 1 second here. And what I'm going to do is this. Just a tiny bit of glass cleaner on here. And I'm just going to wipe these down on the inside because I can get the inside afterwards. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take this little 5 1/4 by 7 1/4 strip, and we're going to score this at ½ inch. Except my thing is crooked in my scoreboard, so we're going to try this again. Okay, ½ inch. We are going to put score tape on this tab, this ½ inch tab. Or not. Okay. And we're going to fold this over. Okay. We're going to put score tape on both sides of our little construction strip here. We're going to pull the backing off on one side. And we're going to fold this over. We're going to go to the bottom, push that up against, and then fold this over and burnish it down. Okay. And then try backing off the other side and fold it over and burnish it down as well. And I realize this is just a little bit longer. It's fine for right now. Because before we do anything else with this, we're going to put some kind of shaker fill in here. And it needs to be something fairly small, fairly light. So for my my shaker, the shaker we did for the front, I used these little colored leaves, these little clay slices. And I did use all of them in here, and I gotta figure out how I get that unstuck, but that's a whole other issue. So we want something somewhat flat-ish. I'm looking to see what I've got in my drawer. Just, you know, the shaker drawer. I'm sure you guys saw pictures that I posted before I cleaned it. It's much better now that it's cleaned out. Okay. So I think what I am going to put in here. Let's look at our paper really quickly, just because I'm not sure what's going to get matted behind this. And if I do, oh, there we go. I'm going to use those monkeys right there. That will be awesome. In fact, since we know we're going to use the monkeys, I'm going to go ahead and trim that to go there. So, and then we're going to use those butterflies. So I'm going to go 7 3/8 by 9 3/8. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Okay. Oh, don't fall over. That's all I need. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and put that down. Then we can go ahead and put our pocket down. I think I have one of those butterflies that's open, actually. So I'm going to look here just 1 second. Let's go ahead. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get glue on here. And we're just going to center this down here like so. Okay. Now we're going to take this and we're just going to put some like that. And then we're going to take our other piece, which I didn't cut enough of these. Oh, shoot, that's not good. Don't do that. There we go. I knew I was going to do that. I mean, seriously, like sat here as I was putting it in going, I'm going to spill this. And again, we're going to take that 1 inch by 5 1/4. We're going to score down the middle at 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish. We're going to get our score tape and we're going to close up the other end of our little pocket here. Okay. So again, we're going to take, backing off on one side, we're going to line this up, get it all the way to the bottom on this side, fold it over and burnish it down, turn it over, Get our backing off on that side, and the same thing again. Okay, so there's 1/2. We're going to do the same thing with this one. And again, I'm going to fold my 1/2-inch tab over and burnish it down. And then fold this up. And then burnish our other score line. I'm going to put score tape on our 1/2-inch tab. Open that up really quickly and wipe the inside of that down. Like, why doesn't that want to come off? It's not on the inside. Okay. So again, we're going to get the backing off of our tab. Sorry, off of our score tape. And then just fold this over and down. Okay. So let me grab scraps in here. I apologize. On my trimmer again. So we need 1-inch strip. And this needs to be 5 1/4. And another one. And then a couple more, actually. So another 5 1/4. Actually, no, I take it back. Not 5 1/4. 2 5 1/4. One is 1 inch by 7 1/2, actually. Actually, no, 7 1/4. I apologize. 7 1/4. I promise I know what I'm doing. May not seem like it, but really, mostly know. Okay, so we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And 1/2 inch. And 1/2 inch on our long piece. Okay. Both of the small pieces are going to get score. Actually, all of them are going to get score tape, but for right now, we're just going to deal with the 2 small pieces. Okay. Actually, I think that needed to be wider. That's why. Okay. I'm going to fold and burnish. We're going to seal up one end, just like before. Add our shaker. There we go. And seal up the other end. Okay. Now, on both of these, we have this little bit of a tab that's hanging over. All you're going to do is put your scissors on the top of your acetate and just trim that off. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to get covered up, but we do need to trim it off. It's just easier, I found, and this came in part from doing that acetate accordion album. It's easier to get these side pieces lined up if they're a little bit long, and then you trim off the extra. Then you don't have to be quite as precise when you're putting them down. All right, so let me grab this. And we are going to go 1.5 this time. Actually, no, we're not. Because what we're going to do is we're going to create. You're going to glue on here. Let's do that first. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Okay. So you have the one end where you see your score tape. Okay. Those are the ends that you want together. What we're going to do is we're going to get glue on there and line these up like so. And then I'm going to clip that to make sure it's going to stay, because you're dealing with a little bit of bulk here. And just the way the acetate, kind of still kind of bows, even though, it's folded and whatnot, it still has, some depth to it, not depth. Still some chunkiness on the inside there, which is why this works. Okay, so I'm going to wipe down on my inside here. And on the back side. And I know I'm going to have to do this again like 6 more times, but it's okay. Let me grab a couple more of my clips. Actually. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing on this end. You're going to have to kind of pull it a little bit to get it to line up right. But again, this is why we're using the clips. So we are going to go 1 1/4 by 7 1/4. Okay. This strip is going to go across the bottom to seal up the bottom of our pocket and to hide our ugly little mess there. If you didn't want, because you're going to have, where you're seeing that edge where those come together, if you didn't want to see that, you could add another piece on the top here. It's up to you. I think it's going to be fine. Then we need a piece that is 5 inches by, I believe this is 1 3/4. Yeah, that's fine. 1 3/4, 1 1/2, either is fine, because you're just going to use a scrap for both of these parts. Both of these parts, that doesn't even make sense. For both of these pieces. I know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so our 1 1/4 inch piece, we're going to score this at 5/8. Okay. Actually, no, we're not. Yes, we are. And then we're going to score it again at 1/2 because we need just that little bit of a gusset in there. And then we actually need to cut this to 1 1/8, not 1 1/4. That's where I'm confusing myself. I don't know where my washi tape is to try and get this fixed, but that's okay. There we go. We got it. And then, oops, I don't want to cut that. We're going to score it here in just a second. Okay. So we've got our 1/8 of an inch. We're going to put our score tape on both sides. Because again, this is adhering to the acetate for the most part. Overlaps a little bit on the cardstock, but that's fine. Pull my backing off on one side. Remove 2 of my clips. Line this up to the ends. Oops. Thankfully, score tape and acetate are somewhat forgiving because we don't want to line it up the way we were lining the other ones up. We want to come up here. We want to do it from this side. Okay. We're going to flip it over, get our backing off, and again, this will fold up and over like so. Okay, so there's your bottom of your pocket. I'm slightly off on this end, but that's okay. So this would be where, like I said, if you don't want to have that little gap like that, you would just do 2 more 5-inch strips, 5-inch by 1 1/8, scored at 5/8 and 1 at 1/2 inch and at 5/8, and then you'll just wrap it around just exactly like we did this bottom piece. So what we have is this fun shaker pocket that is actually a pocket, but it's also going to be a flap. So what we're going to do with this piece, this is our other 5-inch piece, 5 by 1 3/4. I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and then at 5/8. I'm going to fold and fold. And what I am going to do is glue this on this end. I am going to put glue on this tab and in the 1/8 gusset. Because this is how we are going to create our tab. And since this whole edge is going to get matted anyway, it's not going to matter that it looks a little funky right now. It will be fine. I'm going to glue that down there. And one side of my pocket came up because of course it did. Okay, and then this is going to sit on top of the other pocket. So this will actually flip open like so. Okay, however, this is shorter than this, which is fine. I've lost my ruler because we're going to just take a tiny bit off of this. In fact, this is how we're going to do this. line it up on here, get it all the way to the bottom. I'm just going to mark where it intersects right there. And then I can just trim that little bitty piece out. Okay. So I'm going to give this a minute to dry on this end here. And then we'll glue that down on there. And if you wanted to, you could center it up. Sorry, didn't realize I couldn't see it. Okay, so if you want to, you can center it up on top of this pocket, because it is just going to fold out just like so. Or you can do it to one end. If you do it to one end, you can go ahead and put it down now and then mat. If you're going to center it, you're going to want to mat this before you put this down. Okay, I'm going to do it to the end because that's just fine. So I'm going to get my glue on the back here. And there we go. So there's our shaker pocket. All right, so let's go back to our waterfall page. So I am going to start. Actually, no, it needs matted. That's why we're not doing that yet. Sorry. Back inside cover. That's where I'm trying to go. And I think I am actually going to grab that. Hold on, let me figure out what I'm trying to do here. Okay, this is actually not right, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to finish this up in the morning. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so let's finish up our waterfall page and our one pocket page, and then we'll do the back inside cover. So to finish off the waterfall, you do need two pieces, 6.5 by 1 7/8. We're going to score these at 1/2 inch and 5/8 on one end. Okay, get that out of the way. Grab the book. So I am going to mat this with just a solid piece because where the waterfalls are going to cover a good portion of this, we really don't need it. I didn't want to use one of the patterns. So I'm going to go ahead and fold just on my 1/2 inch score line and burnish on both of these pieces. And then I'm going to turn my book sideways. The top of my glue was weird. Okay. Okay, I'm going to line this one up on the opposite side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a magnet on these. Okay. I'm going to get back off of that one. Why did I just, whoops. How about we don't put the pick away until we're actually done with it? Novel concept, right? Okay, so before we attach that second piece, you're just going to want to push back on both of those tabs and get that 8-inch gusset standing up. And then you can go ahead, just slightly crooked early, but that's okay. It will be just fine. All right, so now we can go ahead and do our waterfall. And I'm going to start with my small one, which is going to fold down. So I'm going to start over here. Actually, let me grab these because I'm not sure the spacing, how I want this. Okay, so I've got about 1/8 of an inch from my inside edge here. I'll have about 1/8 of an inch here and 1/8 of an inch over on this end. Okay. And I meant to try, and honestly, I totally spaced it until it was too late, to try Michelle Allen's process for the waterfalls where you don't have to line them up like this. I watched her video. It looks amazing. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to try it. And I thought about it way too late to try to do it with this one. But if you have watched her video and you're familiar with it, by all means, go ahead and use that method because I think it will be a lot easier. Not that waterfalls are inherently difficult. They're just tricky to get them straight and to get them even and everything else. But I do love putting them in books. The very, very first mini I think I ever did, I think I put a waterfall in it. And that was one back when I was still doing them ring bound and everything else, and I really had no clue what I was doing. And honestly, at that point, they were a little bit simpler because I wasn't doing tutorials. I was just making them for fun. And, I was kind of blissfully unaware of things I was, doing wrong. Made it a little bit more fun. Okay, so this last one, and I just totally put that down without putting my mat down. Oh my God. Okay, well, I'm just going to pull these up because we need to put our mat down before we do this. Okay, well, that's a mess now. Oh my God, I'm telling you, it's not my morning. I really felt like I was more on top of it today than I was last night. Apparently, I'm still not. Need to put down the craft supplies and walk away. That feels like that's all I've done lately, so probably not an option. Okay, so we're going to try this again. We're going to go just almost to the edge there. And there you can see much better about where I'm placing this one. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to try this again. Apparently these two are stuck together, so we're just going to go with it. Because the way I pulled it up, it actually left them attached. So we're just going to go with it. Because... no, we're not, because that's not going to work, is it? Yeah, well. We'll make it work. goes for today's episode of Messed Up Waterfall Assembly. Oh my gosh. Well, fortunately, I don't sell my books or give them away for the most part or anything like that. So it's fine. Only I and anybody who watches this tutorial to this point, assuming I don't edit this out, will know that I just massively screwed. Okay, so we have our pocket. We have our partially closed shaker. What I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully cut across and miter those corners. And just a tiny, tiny bit up here. So what we're going to do, you want your envelope, good Lord, your shaker in the top of, so the folded part of your shaker, the open part of your pocket, okay? What's going to happen is we're going to line this up on here, like so, and then this is going to fold up and over, okay? You want to get this in there tight as you can. And then I would suggest pulling off part of your backing, going part way, and getting that down. And then just pull it out as you work your way along the side there. Okay? So now that's attached at the bottom. Okay? We're going to do the same thing on one side and one side only. And where the side isn't as long, you're going to be okay to just go ahead and pull the backing off and fold that over. Okay. This other end, we're going to leave this open for now because this is how we're going to get our shaker fill in. And on this one, I think I'm going to use, oh, there it is. Okay. So I have this Desert Sky Shimmers, and this is one from Country Craft Creations. The other couple that I've used have just been random ones out of my stash. So, out loud. And I've been trying really hard not to get on and see what new ones she has because my shaker drawer is out of control. I had to rearrange the whole thing the other day and it still is full. And I don't think I can really reasonably get anything else in it. So, okay. Does it need some more? Yeah, I'll go ahead and put some more. Oh, forget it. We'll just put the whole thing in. Okay, well, I've got some little stars that are kind of static in there that don't want to come out, and that's fine. Okay. Kind of tap all your shaker to one end, and then you should be able to pull up your backing, and again, you're just going to line up and over and down. Then, grab the book, we are going to go ahead and put this down just like you would a normal pocket. And then the matting you can just cut and slide down in here. And that'll be it. Okay, so that is the basic construction. I just need to mat and decorate this now. And, oops, let's get it turned the right way. That would help. Hasn't clogged on me for 2 days. Now it wants to clog again. And like always, I'm going to start with my bottom. And it's not quite as wide as the back there, so we do have a little bit of room to play with, so you're not going to worry about it running into the sides of anything. Okay. And then let's turn it so I can see what I'm doing. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? All right. I'm going to pull those in, push that down, and then just burnish this and hold it until it sticks, and there's your book. You just need to do your matting and your decorating, and that's going to be it. I'll be back in just a minute with our inserts that we're going to do for this, because I don't remember for sure how many, if there's 3 or 4, but I'll be back with inserts in just a minute. Okay, so for our inserts, you're going to want, and these are totally optional if you don't want to do these, you absolutely don't have to, 6 pieces 3 by 6 for tags, and you should be able to get a lot of this just from your scraps from the construction of the base. You're going to want 4 pieces that are 4.5 by 12. You're going to score those at 6 inches. So they're just going to be little booklets that are going to fold up like so. Go ahead and score all these really quickly. Okay. You're going to want 4 pieces, 6 by 8. These do not get scored. You're going to want 4 more pieces, 6 by 8.5. These are going to get scored at 1/2 inch with the 8.5 at the top. Okay. All 4 of those we're going to miter. Okay, put that for 1 second. I'll put one of these together with you guys because they're all 4 going to go together the same. So you're just going to fold and burnish. You're going to take one of your 6 by 8, line it up like this. Okay, line it up like so, make sure it's even side to side, top to bottom, and then just pinch. Okay, there's your insert. Okay, so you've got 4 that you're going to do like that. And your last one, just because I had a piece that was left, this is 6 by 12, and we're just going to score this at 6 inches for just one more very simple little booklet. Okay. So that's about it. You can go ahead and mat those. I will get mine matted, but other than that, our book is basically finished. I haven't finished decorating at this point, but oops, got our shaker. When you open this up, we've got our first little flip here. It's still trying to stick to itself. I did add a tiny, tiny magnet, some ones that I found on, I think Amazon. I don't even know where I got them from, but they're like little bitty. To hold that closed, we've got, of course, this is our clear pocket. We've got another pocket back behind there. We've got our tuck spot here with our just little flaps. We've got one of our 6 by 8 inserts will go here. I think it's our 6x6 that goes here. The Waterfall, I did use a cut apart for the top, and then I did a second cut apart for the rest of the matting, that it's just matted on that one end. The back are completely blank because once you get pictures in there, of course you're not going to want that to be super bulky with the matting. So I've got like random pieces of fuzz. So pocket here, we've got our pockets there. A couple of our tags go in here. We've got these were left open on the top, so a couple of our tags go up there, and then you can just put extra cut aparts in the two pockets. Two of our 4.5 by 6 booklets go in here. And we'll do tags here, one of the 6x8 here, so tags 6x8. This, I just need to do some plain white photo mats on the backs of all of those. This, again, I think is just leftover tags and maybe one of the 4x6 booklets, but I'm not positive. And then here we've got our clear pocket with our not clear underneath it. So again, we can just put extra tags and cut aparts in there. So there's your book. As always, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell if you want notifications when I post new projects. And thanks for watching.